I'm so excited. I love doing these interviews so much, and every now and then I get to do them with somebody that I love deeply, like my friend here. I'm so excited to introduce you to Christina Arthur. We work together in the same real estate office, and that's how we met.
Yes.
But I admire her immensely, and I'm so excited for her to tell you about all the hard work she did to become super spectacular. So, Christina, I'm sorry. So we've been in real estate about the same time.
Yes, you're a little bit more than I am.
A little bit,
yeah.
so 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, this is my 5th year.
Oh shit, I didn't realize. Okay,
Yeah.
5th year.
Yeah.
And you've accomplished so much.
Yes.
So I watched you do that, and I know that from the beginning you really were like, I want to do luxury.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a whole nother realm of stuff.
It's a whole beast.
Okay, so how did you choose that? Like, you knew that from the beginning. That's where you wanted to be. So how did that come about?
Well, I don't discriminate against persons,
right? Of course not.
But I'm most comfortable in the luxury space. I think that's because before I got into real estate, I love to go in luxury open houses. I like their fit and finish. There's something about the way that they're sitting on the lot, the mountain views, the inside, the design, that has always drawn me to that. So I had clients looking in that price range from the very start. They were dear friends, and it kind of just opened up doors and spaces to me to learn more about different areas in the Coachella Valley that I hadn't yet experienced.
Right, and so in focusing on that, there's a lot of specific detail.
Oh yes.
Right.
Yes.
So just walk through a few points that you have to consider. That's maybe a little bit different than selling in, a different price point neighborhood.
Yeah, well, in luxury real estate, I feel like you're more selling the lifestyle as well. So if you're entering the realms of country clubs, golf clubs, there's a different niche for everybody. And so what I figured out working in these different clubs and these different price points is that people who are buying $1 million+ home are more inclined to buy if they feel that the neighbors are going to be great and the area is going to be more in tune to their lifestyle, the club aspect, having things at their beck and call. Like, can I call down to the club and get warm towels for my guests? Things like that, things that you would never think about as, homeowner, right? Because it's not accessible to me.
Sure.
But to them it's very important.
Right.
So just learning those things and learning the clubs is important when stepping into luxury. And I always tell new agents that ask me, how did you do it? I ask a lot of questions. I tend to do that just in general.
Right.
I'm nosy. And taking a lot of club tours and getting in communication with the people who are running the tours and the clubs.
Right.
You want to be in good communication with them, and you want to help them sell the lifestyle, because most of the time you're going to be handing them over to the club themselves to do that tour and to show them what it's about.
Right.
And if you don't have a good communication with them or a good friendship or relationship, you're not going to be top of priority and top of list, and you want to know what you're talking about.
Right. And out here in Coachella Valley, the luxury space has expanded hugely since COVID. But there's a lot of fantastic agents that have been doing that for a long time. And being an up-and-comer like yourself, to kind of get into that, you worked really hard to do that. A lot of open houses, like you said, you asked a lot of questions, you followed a lot of agents. You spent a lot of time learning what to do next.
Yes.
And how do you coach somebody else to do that same thing?
Well, I have a few mentees, and some of them do want to step into the luxury space. I always tell them to shadow me on an open house, learn the lingo. There's so many resources now online that people can use to, learn more luxury talk, I guess. And so it's all at their fingertips.
Right.
Literally, they can pick up their phone and see. I kind of tell them, follow me on an open house and get comfortable there. No fit and finish of homes. Go to a lot of brokers opens that are in the luxury space. And a lot of times they're on the MLS, they're on realtor.com, they're literally posted on Instagram. I follow all of the luxury agents in the Valley, and I love looking at what they post because they're all so different.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about real estate, is that there's a flavor for everybody.
Right.
So it kind of makes it pretty easy because I love the Coachella Valley and I love what I do. So it just kind of comes natural.
Yeah. Well, you're born and raised here.
Yeah.
So you, I mean, you spent your whole life, you know, all about everywhere in and out. Yeah. And so what brought you to real estate?
So I worked in the hospitality industry before I got into real estate. I broke my foot in 2017 on the job. And after that, my husband decided, you know, you're not going to go back into that industry because it was long hours, late nights. Yes, long hours, late nights, and I was missing a lot of really spectacular time with like my children. And so we just decided that wasn't going to be it. And then I really enjoyed doing things around the house. And like I said, I've always gone into open houses. I loved walking Las Palmas because we lived in Palm Springs at the time. I like, oh, there's an open house. See you later. I'm going to go take a walk.
You're that neighbor.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm that girl. I still do it.
Yeah, I know you do. I know
like I'm like, hi, I'm a realtor. I know I look like this, but you know, I saw that you're having an open house and I had to pop in.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's educational.
It is. You have to know the inventory.
Yes.
You have to know what's being sold for what price and where and what that looks like.
Right.
And what's the difference between this end of the valley and that end of the valley.
100%. And the HOAs and all the things that come with it. It really is. It's a full-time job.
Right.
So I signed up for real estate to get my license, and I did all the courses, and then right before I was supposed to take my test, COVID happened. So I signed up in I signed up in late 2018 to take my license after I was trying to figure out what was going on. Fully resigned in 2019, and then from the restaurant industry, and then went to get my license. COVID happened, so then I didn't get licensed until August of 2020, and signed with Keller Williams in September.
Yeah, and were you surprised at the amount of knowledge you had, or the amount of things that you had to know? Because I'm always surprised as a real estate agent.
Yes.
Like, I thought it was going to be a lot different.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not. And
no.
you have to learn how to run your business. You have to learn how to manage your money. And I know you're so really good at that. No, you really are. Like, you have a budget and a P&L, and you have from the beginning.
Yes.
I think that's what we know, that a lot of agents don't do that.
Correct. Yeah. So I got an S Corp right when I started started closing deals, which was in the beginning. And I think I closed like my first 5 deals and made CA Luxury Properties Incorporated, and I made that S Corp, and that's kind of what started the whole P&L process with me and managing money, because they kind of tell you in the beginning, and especially Keith, our broker, is amazing about it. Don't spend all your money.
Right? You get that paycheck. It's like
Chanel.
And there's the mortgage.
Like, wait, I wanted that bag. So I immediately started to manage the money, which I think is really important, especially, and I always tell my mentees, you know, it's a big check, but just remember the taxes aren't taken out of it. So, you know, do as you wish. It's your money, but I wanted to run my business as a business because I do take this very seriously.
Right.
You know, helping people buy and sell their homes. These are their biggest investments. And it's very, as I've learned through the last few years, it's very emotional selling a property.
Yes.
And I've, like, my niche is helping my people, even in the luxury space. I help a lot of them pack up and donate, and we have a good relationship at Keller Williams with the Gallery Center.
Right.
So I'll call them and swiftly, you know, donate whatever they don't want just to get the house ready to go on the market. And
right, and that level of service, I mean, also from a restaurant perspective, like, we are thinking multifaceted.
Yes.
It's really not just sit down, let's talk about what the numbers are, and let's hold an open house. Like, there's a lot of steps that go into it, and it can be really overwhelming for people. They've had the house for a long time, and their belongings and their age and all of that stuff.
100%.
It's a different level of service for sure.
Yeah, it's emotional, and then, you know, it takes a lot out of people, and especially when they're packing up their house for 20 years, and the house has grown so much as far as the price point they once bought it, and then what it's you know, now you know, in these golf communities, they've owned it for 20 years. They bought it for maybe $600-700, and now it's $2 million. So you have to go in there and to let them know, hey, I think it's time to paint the walls and you know, do all the things that nobody wants to say. But I've learned brutal honesty is the best way to go in those situations, or the job just isn't going to get done and you won't be able to sell their house.
Well, you know, when you're trying to help somebody do that. There are times like during COVID when it was real fucking easy to do that.
Yeah. Oh.
And it didn't really matter. You
Yeah.
just threw it, whatever. But when it's not so easy, it is important to be able to have those honest conversations. Do you feel like that sort of being able to do that really well sets you apart?
I think so. I mean, like I said, everybody has their own flavor. But yes, I think my level of communication has definitely gotten better as I have progressed in my real estate career. I started during COVID. So it was pretty easy to get that buyer to make an offer and get that seller to sell at a crazy price. As the years have gone on, the market is definitely different. It's not bad.
Right?
Yeah.
How's the market?
Yeah, how's the market? That's everyone's favorite question.
Yeah.
It's stabilizing. It's stabilizing. This
Right.
is like what you saw back in 2017 to 2019. We're not going to see a crash from what I look all the time, literally what I do for a living.
Right.
And I look on, HUD, and I look on all those websites of foreclosures, and right now there's only 23 in all of California, all including Northern California.
Right.
That's nothing.
It's
so,
nothing.
am I scared of the market? No. My service is different than everybody else's service, but we're in a stable market. So I try to be as realistic about that as possible.
Yeah, people have this idea that real estate agents are like, it's not like a job. Like it's not like that you have to actually have some knowledge and some skill. They really just sort of think it's an easy thing. But we've had multiple conversations.
Yes.
It's not an easy thing.
Yeah, it's 24 hours.
It's 24 hours, and I was actually going to say that. So earlier you said, your husband was like, I don't want the hours, the restaurant hours, late nights. But as a mom of two, I mean, real estate can really take your time up.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I think especially early on. So how did you kind of find a way to make sure, because I know you take your girls to the softball practice. I know you pick them up from school and you drop them off and you do the Girl Scout thing. How did you kind of say, this is how I'm going to make sure to do my business?
Time blocking. And I learned that early on from our team leader at the time. Alan was training me. You know Alan. Yeah. He was training me and he said time blocking is your best friend. So I tend to do that. And I take a day off during the week as suggested because we do work weekends.
Sure.
So, and I work weekends as a mom as well. So I try to take at least one day off during the week where I can get those household things done that, moms need to do.
Right.
And I'm able to, because of softball, because of soccer, because of Girl Scouts, and all of the stuff that my kids are involved in, I'm able to bring my computer and pretty much work wherever. Yeah, and I'm able to take that time between 2:45 and 3:45. I take it off, I pick them up from school, bring them home, make them a snack, and then let them know that I'm going to work for a few more hours. I can always take a call anywhere. Thank God for, cell phones. Yeah, and thank God for a hotspot. So I can literally at softball or soccer just whip out my computer and do something real quick. But all my clients know I have kids and they know my family always will come first.
Yeah.
But I'll never not take an opportunity to show their house and thank God we're at a place where people are willing to help because there's been many times where, of course, if you want to get busy, plan a vacation. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, where they're willing to help, do a showing and take over when needed.
Yeah. So, you started this career 5 years ago. Your girls are now at the age where they've watched you do that.
Yeah.
Right. So they were real aware of you working and building this. What do you think that's taught them?
I definitely think that's taught them like women empowerment. They love to see me hustle. They are like my biggest motivators and also my biggest fans, like they're like, oh, take the call, or they know what's on the line. And I always put little, fish out for them. It's like, okay, well, if I can get this done and this goes in escrow and it closes, we'll go to Disneyland, I'll take you out shopping, my older one, so she's going to be 16. So she does a lot of the stuff. She'll be like, you should make this video for, put it on your TikTok. And she has access to all of my open accounts that are not my own. And she's like, you should do this. And so they're pretty involved. Both of them do not want to get into real estate.
Yeah. Why not?
They see me working 24/7. They're just like, one wants to be a lawyer and handle trusts and stuff, and the other one wants to go into like marketing, PR, stuff like that. She wants to do maybe commercials, stuff like that. But they're just both, which which is totally fine. Maybe they'll fall into real estate.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's kind of like what we did.
Yeah.
It's not like we were in high school like, I can't wait to grow up and be a real estate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So were you surprised at what a good fit it was for you?
Yeah. I think I like the fact that I could make my own schedule, and that's what really drew me to it, and the fact that I really love the architecture and the style here in the desert. But I think it was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And just time blocking. Like, I wish I could multiply myself like 100 times and be like, okay, you do this and you do that and you do this. But
Or you could get an assistant.
Yeah, I know. She really pushes me for it.
Were you surprised at what a good fit it was for you?
Yeah, a little bit. So, I mean, it was, it's definitely a transition, you know, but we're people,
Yeah.
you know, we come from hospitality, we come from service. And once I started to realize that real estate is a service and not just, you know, a job, you know, it's a service, you know, and the more services you offer, the more clients you're going to get and the more referrals you're going to get.
Right.
This is a referral based network, you know, of people.
Right.
Most of my business now, everyone's, how do you get your business? I do open houses. I've definitely
always done
open houses. And a lot of my business is referral business.
Yeah. And I think when you get to the place where the people that you've serviced before are now giving you enough business for you to keep going, I feel like that's such a huge win.
Yes.
Everybody has their own way of doing their business. And I encourage those who want to pay Zillow, do that.
Yes.
But I think, you know, something that we both really feel strongly about is if you just really service the people right the first time, business will follow that.
100%.
Yeah, and I definitely have seen. I mean, you know, you've done multiple pieces of business with the same person over and over again.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise about real estate? What surprised you the most?
Biggest surprise about real estate. How much fun it is. Yeah, I really do. I love working with people. I love going in people's houses and seeing what kind of stuff they have on their walls. It is a lot of work. That was like another big surprise. It's 24/7. Your phone is always ringing. I have learned though, if it's past 6 o'clock, I'm not answering any buyers. I'm not answering any sellers. Most of the time they're a few deep, and it just ends up being a mess. So I always in my voicemails, like, if it's extremely important, please text me, and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. But most of the time I wait till the morning.
Well, one thing that you have to learn how to do is set boundaries.
Oh my gosh, yeah. People will step all over them.
Boundaries. And you know, that can be a difficult thing to learn how to do.
Yes.
Because if you weren't doing it before, well, now you're in a business that literally can just like push you over the edge.
Yes.
Of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really important to set those boundaries. And it's not like a offensive thing. You know,
no, people respect it.
I think people respect it.
Yeah, if you just set that boundary in the beginning too, and I make sure they know. I have kids; they play sports. A lot of the time, I'm busy. You know, late at night between the hours of 6 and 10. So I might shoot you a text message and say, "Hey, is it super important? Can we deal with it in the morning, or is your sink leaking? You know, like what is happening?" Yeah. So
what do you say to the people who might say, "Well, you're too busy as a mom to give me the kind of service that I'm looking for,"
or to take care of something?
Sorry, couldn't even like say it with a straight face.
Yeah. You know, then I've never had anybody say that, thank God.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure there's people out there like, how do you do it all? Again, time management, and then just talking. I have open lines of communication with my kids. I love this season of life I'm in. I do not have littles at home.
Yeah, they're almost 16
and 13. So, I mean, they are able to take care of themselves. I can drop them off and pick them up after a couple showings and take them for dinner, and they're good. I think that these ages have grown to be my favorite because they're not as dependent as they once were. They're a little bit more independent. They want to hang out with their friends. So I always tell my clients that I'm open. Listen, my kids are not 3 and 5 like they think in their head.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, listen,
I have kids.
Yeah. So immediately listen, they're 13 and 16, so they know I run a business. It does not affect my business. In fact, it is something that I utilize in my business because they'll come and they'll help me pick up your donations and take them to the Goodwill, and they're helpful. I've had one of my clients be like, hey, can your daughters come and pick all the weeds in the garden and I'll pay them, $20 an hour? And I'm like, sure. I'm like, we're doing listing prep, and like he's thinking like, hey, yeah, let's use your teenage daughters. That's a really good idea,
right. Well, and like, what a lesson for them.
100%.
Right? Like, if they never get into real estate, that's fine, but to see the behind the scenes of what because they see what the world sees of you.
Yeah.
They also see that person who is their mom, but it is also Christina Arthur, real estate agent, right? So for them to see that version of you, but also to know what it takes to do that, I think is a huge lesson for them to understand that no matter what is happening out here, there's all kinds of stuff going on in the back that created it.
Yeah, and that's probably why they don't want to get into real estate, because they're like, this is way too much work.
But the thing about real estate is, there's no ceiling to it.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Well, I told Alan when I interviewed with him, and he was like, well, what are your goals? And I was like, I came to crush. So, and he was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, I'm like a sponge. I love, like I said, I ask a lot of questions, and I'm like, I'm going to be very annoying with questions, but I just want to be able to obtain the information. So I might ask a few times because that's just how my brain works. I move really fast, and sometimes I don't obtain everything that I need, but and I still do a lot of classes and CDARs.
Well, we're always learning,
we're always learning. I mean, this is like the career that the changing is never ending.
Yeah. I always say it's like you're always going to go from A to Z.
Yeah.
Give the check or give the keys.
Yeah.
But everything that happens in between there it's never the same.
No.
Never, ever, ever the same. And that's actually that was a really hard lesson for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a learner. And so I'm like, I understand what's happening now. And there would be so many times I'd be like, I thought I understood what was happening.
Yeah.
And now you have this?
Yes.
Oh. What am I supposed to do with this?
Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many times ice machines have almost ruined a deal for me. Where they, it's been like 3 or 4 transactions on multi-million-dollar homes where the ice machine
in the refrigerator?
Yeah, starts to leak. And we have a problem, or it wasn't working, and they turned it on, and it's like I get there and it's a mess, and we have to now disclose, and we have to fix, and it's a few $1,000s, and it's just multiple times. It's
biggest problem you've ever solved on the spot.
Well, the ice machine thing, I've learned to actually handle that now before. I take a listing, if I hear it even humming, I'm like, listen, let's just unplug it and have somebody come out and take a look at it immediately. It just happened. Just in case. I'm like, that noise haunts me. I'm like, it's not a good sign. Things that have happened on the spot, I've had rats in the, up in the crawl space where the furnace is. I think you just kind of handle it like you would if it was your own property, and that's how I take all of my listings. Like, I'm not afraid to crawl up there and be like, okay, what is it? Let me take a look. Oh, it's a rat. Like, we need to call somebody. And as long as you stay calm, I feel like the fire's easy to put out. But the second I lose my shit.
Well, that's actually that is what you actually, the moment you learn that, everything changes.
Yeah.
Because when you first, I can remember like my 4th or 5th deal in was with a friend, and it was like going to like explode, and I was like, what the fuck, I'm crying.
Definitely been in tears.
How do I solve this?
Yes.
I was talking to Alan about it. He was the team leader only at the time, and and he was like, it's fine, this is what you do. And I was like, okay. Once I realized that as long as I'm calm, everything actually always works out, and sometimes that means like letting everything sit for a couple hours.
100%. I've learned to not answer the phone right away if there's a fire, because it usually works itself out, and everybody's a little bit more calm. And don't get me wrong, I'll close the phone and be like, fuck.
They're on the list.
Exactly.
But that's the other thing too, is I think it's important in our business to have like a group of agents who you're really close with,
100%.
that you can bounce ideas off. Has this
Yes.
happened to you? And we have that.
We do.
And that's been a lifesaver.
A huge lifesaver.
Shout out to Roy and Andy.
Yeah, seriously, because it's like, have you dealt with this? And one of us most likely has.
Yeah.
And or it's like, nope, but we'll figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
and we'll go straight into solution rather than try to, you can't fix a problem without knowing how to, get the solution out of it, and or,
Yeah, and I think just trying to have a good relationship with other agents in general makes everything go a lot
I
faster.
immediately go into every deal like the agent's my friend, and I let them know we're just here to facilitate the deal.
Right.
I am not here to make anybody mad, and our famous saying is win-win or no deal.
Yep.
And I tell them that right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm just here because my buyer, my seller wants to sell, my buyer wants the house, and how can we make it work?
Yeah.
And I try to make it as easy as possible because life's too hard to make this hard too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, after, so you're here 5 years in real estate, but obviously there's a lot of life before that. Do you have a piece of advice that somebody ever gave you along the way that you kind of hold with you still even today?
Don't sweat the small stuff and never give up. I try to let things roll off me. People are always going to talk. They're not always going to be proud of you and think you're the best, and that's okay. There's everybody's just at a different phase in their life, so I try to put myself in people's shoes before I go and I judge them, and then I usually just learn more things about myself doing that.
Sure.
So yeah, no, I that's it. Just don't sweat the small stuff. I think there's so many bigger things
happening. Do you tell your girls that?
Yes. Yeah, I know. The drama that I hear them talk about,
I wouldn't trade for a million, $100 billion.
Yeah.
I would not go to high school.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's gotta be tough because I know
different.
there's heartbreak in all different kinds of ways.
And social media.
Yeah.
It's, and just the perception of what a girl or a woman should be and then what they really are, everything's photoshopped, everything has a filter. So I just try to show them, be as genuine as possible.
Right.
And it's okay to take care of yourself and do the things,
Right.
The girly things, but,
Yeah.
a lot of it's fake.
Right. Right. And it's gotta be hard.
Yeah.
You have two girls who are two different people.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Navigating very, whatever, just a few years apart.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's gotta be a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
They're super cute.
Yeah, they're fun.
So, if you were yourself 5 years ago, thinking about getting into real estate or thinking about trying something new and different, like what advice would you give yourself?
Don't be scared. Don't live in fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only way to grow is to go. So that has always helped me. I don't like being uncomfortable, but I live in being uncomfortable because without that, then I will just stay stagnant.
Right.
So I'm constantly pushing myself out of my comfort zone, making phone calls, doing the things that, meeting people I've never met, going to outings, functions, stuff like that. Those things are uncomfortable for me.
Right.
But the more you do it, the more easier it becomes for you. And
Right.
so don't have a fear-based life.
Yeah.
That's just, I lived in fear for a long time, and I don't think it's healthy.
Right. Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No,
with
I
Lisa?
I'm done.
Well, I love you so much.
I love you too.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sitting with